Hello and welcome back to Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore, and we had an interesting weekend to say the least. Um, Lots of interesting narratives being broken, made, written, and just some weird stuff in general. There's some stuff we got to talk about this week. So, without further ado, we can go ahead and get into that. You want to start us off, Aiden?
Yeah, I mean, we could start off with UNC versus Wake Forest. Wake Forest got the win. UNC continuing to have some offensive struggles. I do like the progression that Gio Lopez has made, but it's the progression from the beginning of the season to now, like anything is better. But right now, our rushing attack just is not there whatsoever. Uh, and we're just not really able to make anything happen when it comes to offensive production. Offensively speaking, we had a total of 56 yards rushing and 201 yards passing. That's just not going to cut it, especially in a game, in a rivalry game. Wake Forest was clearly the more dominant force when it came to their rushing attack. They got the ball and were pretty much able to utilize three of their running backs in different aspects. Carlos Hernandez was able to get a receiving touchdown, while Robbie Ashford and Desmond Calliborn were able to get both rushing touchdowns. Um, Robbie Ashford being the quarterback for Wake Forest, who was also pretty mobile in the game. The defensive attack from UNC was looking better. I mean, that's kind of been the high point of UNC in this latter half of the season. We've had a pretty solid defense, but just not good enough for to meet the offensive production that we're having. There is no offensive production, so really it's kind of hard to for like the defense to really make anything happen. Letting up uh, three touchdowns, actually four touchdowns, and just not a good look for UNC right now. We need a win out in order to make a bowl game. Not gonna lie, it doesn't look like it's going to be happening, but uh, I mean, things could be better, but it was a good win for Wake Forest. Wake Forest seems to be putting themselves in a prime position for a very good bowl game. Possibly could win out. So Wake Forest is going to be looking at a 9-win season potentially, and yeah. Any state? Oh yeah, state played Miami this week, right?
Yeah. Um, Whenever a game is not kind of do or die for Dave Doran, you can always expect a letdown. The offense just didn't show up, and if there were any worries about CJ Bailey transferring, we don't have to worry anymore. That's all I'm saying. Every time there's talk of, oh, CJ Bailey's the hottest quarterback in the portal, he puts together a performance like this one. Um, and I'm not blaming this loss was not solely on him whatsoever, but it was just CJ Bailey was not hitting receivers. He made two kind of where the game got out of hand. The first quarter we kind of traded blows. There wasn't NC State didn't score, but it was like NC State was getting consistent stops in the first quarter after an initial 10-point explosion. But then CJ Bailey threw back-to-back interceptions, and it was just out from there. It was just not great. NC State couldn't really move the ball after that, and it was just CJ not making reads, and it was kind of all like the red flags. Like every quarterback doesn't have red flags, but the red flags really showed in that game. And yeah, well timed Dave Doran loss. So not much else to do say there. I mean, Miami ran the ball pretty well, and that's kind of like what helped them through this and get through it. But yeah, other than that, it's just when you can't convert on third down and when you can't hit your receivers, you're not going to win. Like, that's just plain and simple. And just like no fight whatsoever. I think Dave Doran looked very apathetic and looked. The Georgia Tech game, he looked very locked in. Like earlier this season, I've had criticisms of Dave Doran kind of looking like he's had one foot out the door. That demeanor came back for this game. Like I noticed that demeanor from the very go. And it's just kind of like he says he's got another season in him. And he's like here to stay, but I don't think so. Especially with what was said in the press conference. I forget exactly what was said, but like he said something along the lines of like, you think this shit's funny? I live this every day. No, Dave. I've lived this every day for 13 years. You think this is okay? You think you're having a hard time? You get to just stand there and go, we're rebuilding. It's year 13, buddy. It's year 13. You said just be patient, give you time. I'll give Will Wade time. He's a first-year head coach. Doesn't look like he needs it. I don't think he needs 13 years to build something here. Like, sure, this year I don't think is going to be as good as NC State fans say it is for basketball, but he's at least going to put together what some would deem as a successful season for a first-year head coach. I definitely think that'll happen. But Dave, and I understand there's like football level money going into basketball right now. You know, we went out and got some of the best players available in the transfer portal, and we continue to land top recruits and shell out these massive NIL deals. But also at some point, I would have thought you'd thrive with this. You thrived in pre-portal era and early portal era before collectives. It's just your teams don't seem to show up. And I know we have a first-year defensive coordinator, so the defense is going to look a little weak, kind of not great. But this is just embarrassing, man. How do you go from competing with a top 8 team in the country to just not even fucking showing up? Like, I'm ready to turn the team over to our OC as an interim guy, and then just now I realize firing Dave Doran right now would not be the best thing to do. There are more job openings open right now than there are coaches available. And this is going for even really good teams. Like they're like a little bit of a segue. There are going to be really good teams starting next season who did not get the coach they needed in the offseason. I'll get into this a little later because we've also got some news we want to touch on. I'll get into this a little later when we get into like the hiring news that's happened around the ACC. But I think there's some big name brands that over the last couple of years have fired their coach, that because they fired their coach in this year where there's a lot of openings and not enough coaches to go around, I think we're going to see some programs that have been powerhouses recently fall off and maybe not permanently slip back into irrelevance, but, kind of like get lost within their conference. And it may be a hot take. We'll get into that later. But so for right now, like I said, hang on to Dave Doran for another year. Next year's likely, based off of analytics, is likely going to be a year where not a whole lot of coaches are fired, and State will be able to get their guy and their first choice in the portal. Like their guy and their first choice when it comes to coach. So hold on to him. Let Dave Doran make his bowl game and then lose to fucking App in the bowl game or something. And then who knows? We're apparently slated to play Tulane in the Gasparilla Bowl, whatever that is. Can't wait to watch Dave lose the constipation.
I mean, before we go on to the other North Carolina teams, that does remind me of a little segment that I saw from OG Triangle Media. Joe Ovius brought up the proposition, like, is there going to be a team in the Triangle that gets out of Triangle good? And I really like this term that it has been coined for a while. It's just kind of like emphasizes, like, among football, mediocrity seems to really thrive among mainly Duke, UNC, NC State, and it's just really hard for, like, let's say UNC and NC State to recruit good in-state talent when you have teams like ECU and App State that kind of like take away what would be good players that would probably do well on the bench, but to have starting opportunities at these programs. Do you see like the NC State job being something that's even worth going after? Because we see with Bill Belichick at UNC, like, listen, it's not going to be easy, even if you get a big name guy. Like, there's still going to be a lot of like muck you need to like go through. I still like, believe it or not, I have hope for year two with UNC if Belichick is still here. I still actually do have hope. I think this is not our year, but if Belichick stays and continues the route that we're going, I do see progress and I do see things like moving up. But there's a difference between triangle good and actually good football. So
Yeah,
I
and
just
what
wanted
they
to hear your thoughts on this.
I agree with their thing. Like, so what they call triangle good is usually the best team in the triangle ends up at that like 9-3 mark, 8-4, sometimes 10-2 if they're lucky, with a really good bowl game against an SEC team where they end up getting destroyed in because everyone's going into the portal to go away. I do think the other teams around us having solid group of five teams and sometimes even group of five contender teams around us does kind of hurt us because and like you said, I think even there are even some guys on these App and ECU teams who I don't think would similar to what you said. I don't think they'd start, but they'd be like kind of that off the bench role, like they like kind of role players. Like if like say like our like someone goes down, there wouldn't be much of a drop off when they came on the field, or like say someone's having trouble getting like there's a receiver that's having trouble getting going. They'd be a
Mhm.
great guy off the bench, or God forbid a quarterback goes down they'd be a serviceable backup, like who
Mhm.
could get you over the finish line. And I will say, in no other state is there this amount of Division One FBS teams this close together. Like I think that ultimately does hold North Carolina back
Would
as
you
a state in
say,
football.
would you say, I think the closest thing would be Ohio. Like, obviously there's Ohio State, but like Maction is like a bit, like most of the MAC teams are in Ohio.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but the thing, and then I could this could just be me not being aware of history, but I will say historically speaking, I feel like the group of five teams in North Carolina are more successful than the group of five teams in Ohio. Like ECU 80s and 90s and early 2000s was
Do you mean
a,
FBS or group of five? Because group of five, there would only be the only group of five team in Ohio is Ohio State.
those are Power 5. Ohio State's Power 5.
Yeah, Power Five group of G5. My bad.
Yeah. And I know App State would be FCS at some of this time that I'm talking about. But even some of these greater FCS programs, like App State had like some swagger and notoriety already from that Michigan game.
Yes.
But like in my mind, I think North Carolina is in a more precarious situation, like because like I said, our group of five programs, I feel like are more successful historically. Like ECU ranked pretty highly throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. App State, FCS national championships, like
And their time in the
App
group of
State.
five has been, they've been the media darling.
Yeah,
No real
6-6 is a
success.
bad season for them. Like
Not like no real success, but they're still always going to be like the media darling.
media darling, they're the upset kings. Like they finish some years ranked. Like they oftentimes give like these big teams a run for their money. The only state I could compare it to in terms of the quality would be Louisiana, but Louisiana doesn't have a whole lot of historically good teams around. Like they don't have four Power Four schools within an hour of each other. But I'm saying
Yeah.
like in the sense of like Tulane has that success. Tulane can challenge SEC teams in the ways that App State and ECU have historically and even in recent years challenged Power Four teams in the state. like in the state of North Carolina.
Hmm.
I do think that hurts it. And I do think with how Blake Harrell is running things at ECU, he's trying to bring ECU back to, oh, this isn't just a gimme game like it has been for like the last, prior to last year, has been like the last 8-9 years for NC State and UNC, how ECU was just kind of a gimme game for pretty much all of the 2010s. Like it was a free just ass beating to hand
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So I in that sense, but it also wouldn't surprise me if ECU falls off a little. I know Blake Harrell says he's there to stay, but in reality, I don't think he'd ever go to NC State, even if they threw a lot of money at him. But you're telling me if like a Purdue or somewhere else throws a lot of money at him, he's not leaving? And I get every coach says they're not leaving. Like there are coaches this year who said they are not leaving and not going anywhere for a better team, who will inevitably leave for a better team. The only coaches, the only coaches I take at their word for that probably would be the service academies. Like I feel like they would be very transparent about leaving. Like if a lot of names that have been floating around for some SEC jobs, Jeff Monken at Army, I think he'd be very transparent about leaving, or he wouldn't say anything, but he wouldn't be cryptic about it. He wouldn't I think it would be a surprise if he got it, but I don't think it'd ever get to the point where he was asked about it in any meaningful manner where he'd have to lie.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it would get to that.
Yeah.
But like the only other place I could see that would be Niamaloto at San Jose State. Like he would be another one. Like, but again, he's a service academy guy.
Hmm.
But like, even then, I think if NC State threw a bag at Blake Harrell, they could get him. Not that I want him. Like he is basically Group of Five Dave Doran in my mind. I like it. Just after watching some ECU games, he makes Dave Doran level mistakes when it comes to that stuff. I mean, I do think it hurts it. Like now, when it comes to things like basketball, like the Four Corners or Tobacco Road's such a household name, and honestly, if I'm being being a little, probably this is probably a little mean to say, but I feel like it's true. Group of Five basketball in North Carolina. Now, mid-major basketball in North Carolina. There's some good stuff there. Like your Davidsons and your Elons and your High
Hmm.
Points. They can put together UNC Greensboro some years can put together a pretty solid squad. Like they can put together a squad that will take you wire to wire.
Yeah.
Not really the same with ECU. Not really the same. I even say UNC Asheville more than I'd say App and ECU in basketball when it comes to historical success of
Hmm.
non-group 5 teams. But basketball is a different sport. You don't need as much money for that. There's 13 players as opposed to over 100. So
Yeah.
in terms of that, but yes, in football, I think the fact that we have household names that are sometimes media darlings, at times I'd even throw ECU in as a media darling sometimes, outside of the state of North Carolina. It's a media darling outside of the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Because everyone up here is like, oh, I love this ECU story. I'm like, Aiden and I don't. Aiden and I don't.
I'm more impartial to ECU. You see, I think you hate ECU more than you hate UNC.
No, I hate UNC more. I find ECU fans more annoying.
Okay. Okay. I was just saying from the way you act, you know I hate state
Yeah,
like more than Duke.
yeah,
Like for me in football, like we could go 1-11 as long as we beat state, like I'm happy.
yeah. That's how
And
I am with football. If we go 1-11 and beat Carolina, I'm okay.
yeah,
Like that.
yeah,
That's a good year.
yeah, but you have a special type of disdain for ECU.
Not their students, their particular fans. Like
Yes.
there's a certain caricature of their fan, and I will say, at least when it comes to fans, I will say certain caricatures. I'm not saying that they're not representative of the whole at all, but I'm saying there is a story behind every caricature for every fan base, and that goes for every team. There is a story there. It's like behind every law, there's a story. Even some of the more obscure ones you see in Florida, there's a story.
Hmm.
But and I'm not saying this about all ECU students, but when I say this, Aiden knows the type. I'm not talking about the more family members that went to ECU. Very, very, very Moors, very, very classy people. ECU fans I'm talking about. Both Aiden and I know. Both Aiden and I know exactly the people I'm talking about. But when I say ECU fans, I find more annoying. It's because the problem is ECU fans have a team for their 12 o'clock slot, but then the second the 12 o'clock slot's over, they're putting on a different color at 3:30 or 7 o'clock. That's all I'm saying. And hey, I have a friend who I respect it because he has legitimate reasons to cheer for both. Yeah, I'm not going to name drop him, but he has legitimate reasons to cheer for both of these teams. ECU and Alabama. He has legitimate reasons. But
He
I'm
does.
saying there's
He's a
other
wise
ECU
man. He's a
fans.
wise man.
He is a wise man. But I will say there are others who at 12 p.m. they're wearing purple and gold, but then at 3:30 or 8 p.m. they're wearing red and powder blue.
Mm.
Yeah, we know you couldn't get into the University of Mississippi. We're well aware. We're well aware.
All right,
All right,
but
we move on.
all right, good segment. But moving on, over in Durham, UVA took on Duke, and UVA kind of came back into form in this game. Not gonna lie, they performed a lot better than I expected them. Chandler Morris came back
Yeah,
this game. We saw good Chandler and we saw bad Chandler. Uh,
we got
Jameis
good channel.
Winston. Well, I'm going to say in a good way. Jameis Winston Award winner this week. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, but also throwing for 316 yards. Chandler was kind of back.
Chandler's back. We can say it.
Chandler's back.
Chandler's back.
Chandler's back. Chandler's back. Rushing attack from looking better than ever with Jamari Taylor rushing for 2 touchdowns, having an absolute game on 18 carries, 133 yards. UVA had an answer for Duke in every level of this game. I mean, this score looks a lot closer than how the actual game really went. UVA just played dominant
Yeah.
football for 3 quarters, and Duke got 2 touchdowns in basically garbage time. This
Yeah.
is a really good look for UVA. I was expecting a little bit more out of this Duke team, but that's just kind of my main takeaways from this game. It's more of a UVA win than a Duke loss, but a bad Duke loss from a team that I was a little bit more high on.
Yeah, like Aiden said it best. Like this game before Duke scored 2 garbage time touchdowns was 31-3. Like Virginia had 550 yards of offense. Like this was the Virginia we saw for the first 5 or 6 games of the season. Like high flying offense, and I think it's because they were able to get their run game going again. For a while, people knew to key on Jamari Taylor, and then from there, you can't just Chandler Morris is a great quarterback, but if you get Aiden and I said in college football, if you get very, very one dimensional, you can get pretty easy to stop sometimes, depending on if you don't have the most imposing offensive line. But no, I think this is a good win. I think with the performances this past weekend, if Virginia and Georgia Tech end up winning out, I think we could see 2 ACC teams in the playoff. Honestly, if they
Maybe.
mean,
I don't know.
it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be the winner of in the ACC championship. It's gonna be the winner of Virginia, Georgia Tech, and then Miami, because I think they're gonna find a way to get they're gonna find a way to get Miami. I feel
I say
like
this as like a pretty big Notre Dame fan. Like it's going to be hard to put Notre Dame in and Miami out, even though on the eye test, I believe Notre Dame is the better team. If a rematch happened today, I believe Notre Dame would win that. It's just the trajectory of these 2 teams. But I was watching the Joe Klatt show on Fox Sports Really good YouTube series. I highly recommend everyone check it out. But he brings up a good point. Your top 25, like everybody has Notre Dame over Miami at this point right now. Notre Dame is probably the best two-loss team in the nation right now. But the problem is like your top 25 and your playoff 12 team format is not going to be your top 25. Even with like all the at-larges and stuff like that, you have to go off of resume. And we saw with this new recent updated rankings, the playoff committee trying to like push off that issue. Notre Dame jumped Alabama after Alabama lost, and Miami's still in the playoff on a technicality that the playoff sees Miami as the ACC team that's in right now. Currently, there are no ACC teams in the playoff besides Miami who has their quote unquote automatic bid. A lot of this stuff I think is going to get hammered out in these next 2 weeks. I don't believe we're going to be having issues with, oh, what do we do with Michigan? What do we do with USC? What do we do with Texas is not in the conversation. Like, I'm sorry. Texas, you're done.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a 3-loss SEC team going into the playoff this year. But I feel like with all this hype and stuff like that, there questions are going to be answered in these next 2 weeks, and you just got to see it as the ball goes. All these playoff rankings right now, I take them with a grain of salt because I will not be surprised if Notre Dame's like in the top 12 wins out these next couple weeks and then something happens over like conference championship week. They could be out. I don't see them possibly going out, but there's going to be a lot of things. Hell, Miami might lose. I think the committee's kind of hoping Miami loses these next couple games so they can kind of avoid that question. Because for the betterment of the sport, as much as I think Notre Dame is the better team now, you can't penalize a team for scheduling hard opponents in the off season, winning those games, and then them counting for nothing.
I will say, as much as the SEC fans are going to hate this, and just like, because there's a lot of SEC fans that like to hate on Notre Dame. When you lose matters.
Yes.
And I'm going to use an example, and I realize this was a different sport, but up until a few years ago, your and this is for basketball, your last 10 games, how you played in your last 10 games of the season mattered.
Yeah.
Like they use that as a deciding factor for bubble teams. Like if you were a bubble team that was, 8-2 in your last 10, and you're getting compared to a bubble team that was 5-5 in your last 10, sorry, bud, you're not getting in. This has been a long established thing in college football. When you lose matters. 11-1 teams, an 11-1 team making the national championship in the BCS era, like over another, usually the team that lost earlier would get in. Generally speaking, if you lost in September, you were probably generally fine. If you lost in early October, okay, that's a little bit of danger zone there, but don't lose in November. That's all I'm saying. It now with this playoff format, you can afford a loss in November. But I think in this playoff format, you can't afford to lose 2 in November. I'm sorry. Like, yes, does Notre Dame and does Miami have the head-to-head? Yes. And would we be talking about hypothetical matchups here? Yes. But don't lose 2 games in November.
Yeah.
Notre Dame lost ranked games. Miami did not. Miami lost unranked home games. Unranked home games. I'm sorry. Those if that did not have, say Miami was Louisville, and I know this is going to be like, well, of course they're not. Say this was any other ACC team other than Miami. You know damn well if this was an NC State or a UNC team who was 8-2 right now and had the resume Miami did, everyone would be like, oh yeah, out of the question. They're not even in the playoff. Like, it's out of the question. They're not making it. I don't care who they have left. They would be out of the playoff on principle. We are only talking about Miami still being in the playoff because they are Miami. Notre Dame can be in the conversation because they had 2 early losses. I mean, hey, you know what? I'll use Miami against Miami. One of them national championships Miami played in. They were 11-1. They got the brakes beat off of them in the first game, but then they ended up winning the national championship last year. That was an early loss. They didn't lose at home twice in a row to an unranked opponent. This Miami team did. Notre Dame lost on the road at Miami and then at home to number 3 Texas A&M. If you're really asking them to penalize a team for playing hard teams, beating some of them, losing to others. I'm sorry, but who has Miami really beaten outside of Notre Dame? And then 2 unranked losses at home. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. You cannot justify that. Sure, do they probably still deserve to make the playoff? Absolutely. But I'm saying if that were any other ACC team other than maybe Clemson or Florida State, we wouldn't even be talking about it. It'd be no question they'd be out of the playoff. And yes, we've the committee's sided with historical bias sometimes. But all I'm saying is if this were any other ACC team, they'd be saying, all right, yeah, your season's over. Have fun going bowling. So I think we need to apply this a little bit more, We need to be a little bit more analytical when we do this. And as much as I rag on hypothetical matchups, I'd have to agree with you, Aiden. This is a young Notre Dame team, so they're going to grow as the season goes. And I think we see that, like I said, when I talked about teams that lose early in the season, those teams show growth. Losing late in the season shows what? Regression. Exactly. So that's my point. I'm sorry, SEC fans and Miami Dick Riders, you are regressing.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be an interesting question. I think a lot of these questions will be answered in these next couple days. What's the ACC standings looking right now for? I know we're
confusing because there's 18 teams.
Yeah, we'll get back to the North Carolina team updates in 1 second, but
Georgia Tech's in first at 6-1, tied with Virginia at 6-1. Pittsburgh's right behind them at 5-1 because they've played less.
Yes.
Then there's SMU tied with Pitt at 5-1. They're behind because they play less. There's Miami at 4-2, Duke at 4-2, Louisville at 4-3, tied with Wake Forest at 4-3, Clemson at 4-4, Cal at 3-3, and then Virginia Tech at 2-4, NC State at 2-4, Carolina at 2-4, and then Stanford and Florida State tied at 2-5, and then Syracuse at 1-6, and Boston College at 0-7.
All right. So in this, so the path for Miami to get into the ACC championship, they need to beat Virginia Tech. They need to beat Pitt. Both of those teams are on the road. Pitt is up in the air. I don't know how I feel about Pitt after this Notre Dame game, but we'll see. So in this scenario, Miami jumps Pitt because they beat that head-to-head, and they need to jump SMU and Virginia somehow. So Virginia, what's SMU?
Virginia or Georgia Tech need to lose.
Virginia, SMU needs to lose because they have that head-to-head, and Miami lost it. So SMU needs to lose to Louisville or Cal.
Which could happen.
That could happen. So that would put Miami over and then Virginia, Georgia Tech in that scenario. So Georgia Tech only has one more conference game, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be because the last week they're playing Georgia. That's not going to count for anything. And Georgia Tech's going to be playing. Hang on, Does Georgia Tech have a bye this week?
They can't because they're only 9-1 overall.
Yeah, hang on. I'm trying to find Georgia Tech right now.
Imagine they mess around and beat Georgia. Imagine all the shit talking that's happened this season, and they beat Georgia.
That would be amazing. I would actually
They
personally.
play. Oh, they play Pitt.
Oh yeah, they play Pitt. So things can happen.
There's a path.
There's a path.
How likely that it's ranging in difficulty. I think that
hmm
difficulty for me is still calculating.
hmm
'Cause I believe Georgia Tech does. They play Pitt this week. Okay, they play Pitt this week. I thought they had a bye. But they play Pitt this week, and then they play Georgia on a Friday. Low key, I think they play Georgia on a Friday.
I think
Yeah,
they
they
do.
play. Yeah, they play Georgia on a Friday. That'll be interesting.
Alrighty. Anyway, back to the North Carolina sports. We had Charlotte going up against University of Texas San Antonio. Um, San Antonio won 28-7.
That's your
Moving
weekly
on.
Charlotte update.
Weekly Charlotte update is over. But moving on. App State played JMU. JMU continues to dominate, winning 58-10. App State needs to win out to make a bowl game. Their path to a
My
bowl game,
precedence was right.
your precedence was right. Marshall and Arkansas State are the teams that App State needs to beat to make a bowl game. It's not looking good for App State. I'm not going to lie. Wouldn't say I'm entirely surprised, but people see, the thing is with App State, nobody's going to care really, but like there's always the voices like, oh, what happened to App State this year? They were bad. But speaking of,
They were bad.
they were bad. There were no upsets this year. Um,
Next question.
Next question. Anyway, on to games that actually have major playoff implications. Memphis lost in ECU to the Pirates. Pirates win 31-27. This was a pretty close game, pretty close matchup. Kind of going back and forth. ECU able to get the late touchdown from touchdown reception from Peyton Mangrum. From Hauser. Hauser had a pretty solid game, as always. 332 yards passing. Rushing attack from both of these teams was really solid. This was a really good offensive shootout between these two teams, technically speaking. I saw this infograph last week. ECU has a 0.002% chance to make the playoffs right now. Do I think that's going to happen? Hell no.
A lot has to go wrong.
A lot has to. I mean,
Like hell has to freeze over.
I'm surprised that, like, I'm not surprised, but I'm a little bit disappointed the committee has not been throwing JMU the bone yet.
Part of me also with this. Okay, so this whole ECU scenario is based on what ifs. I mean,
If
I'm
ifs
just
and buts were candies and nuts, we would all have a wonderful Christmas, my friend. But
yeah, exactly. If my aunt had bowls, no, if your uncle or yeah, if my aunt had bowls, she'd be my uncle, but she doesn't, so she's not. Type of thing. The only problem I have with this weekend is they rushed the field against an unranked team, but yeah, it was like a crazy ending, but it wasn't anything unprecedented. Like if something unprecedented happened, like they got like an onside kick and like it was like some crazy sequence. I mean, it was just a last second touchdown. I get the excitement, hypothetically you could make the playoff.
craziest
But
field
also,
rush I've ever been to. App State beating like a 2-2 Troy team. College game day was there. App State was undefeated. They should have won by so much more. But the group of five North Carolina schools, they love rushing the field at odd times. That's why we love them.
Even when they lose, they've done it when they lost before. ECU's done it.
ECU has rushed the streets like during the first quarter, so
Yeah, when they hear the bars open, they start rushing to the streets.
where everybody at? Why the
Where everybody at?
stadium empty? It's only the first quarter.
We know who's not winning the Liv Moss Student Section of the Year. I know.
But
Moving on to teams that actually matter.
Moving on, ECU matters a little bit. ECU matters, but anyway, I believe that it wraps up our North Carolina summary for the podcast. But moving on to South Carolina, Gareth. South Carolina is gone.
They are gone. Good God, I don't know what happened.
You see, okay.
Like what the fuck?
I tuned in to this game at halftime. Texas A&M, South Carolina at halftime, and I saw Texas A&M score, and there was not a moment in my mind where I was like, "Oh yeah, like South Carolina is gonna carry this." And once like the second half started, like I've seen the replays and stuff. That first half, they had us in the first half. Not gonna lie, but but it's tale of two halves. Texas A&M was absolutely in control in that second half, and it just looked bad for South Carolina. Like that is embarrassing. Like that is bad.
Top 10 tweet of all time. There will be a second half. That was crazy. So for those of you who don't know, Texas A&M at the half tweeted out when they were down 31-3, there will be a second half, probably in kind of like a sarcastic, yeah, of course there's a second half, and then they just came back and just it was bad.
There was.
Shane Beamer maybe without a job. Honestly.
Shane Beamer says he's going to be in a playoff contention this time next year with South Carolina.
Buddy, you're going to be speaking ACC this time next year. You're going to be speaking Wolfpack, where you're going to go 8-4 every year. I've seen the message boards, buddy. You better learn Raleigh in 8-4.
You better get ready to learn 6-7. But I mean, you can read this game two different ways if you're looking at Texas A&M. For me, I'm always a glass half full kind of guy. Like, I think this is a good gritty win for for Texas A&M. I mean, coming back, win probability at the highest at 97. Hang on. 97, where are you? 97.8. And coming back to win the game. I mean, that like this Texas A&M team has really good players. Marcel Reed, he's one of the quarterbacks I'm most high on going into the playoff. He has some like questionable decisions, but he can ball out when the time warrants it. 439 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Like this Texas A&M team can live and die by him. And as we saw in the first half, they were dying by him, but in that second half, they were living by him. And once he's on, he's on. You're not going to get away with this game against any other team other than South Carolina. But good win for Texas A&M, and Aggies remain undefeated. Moving on, Notre Dame beat Pittsburgh pretty handily, 37-15. This was, I mean, I don't know what to say other than, I mean, you kind of get what you deserve. I mean,
what even is the Navy game hangover? What even is it? Narrative beaten. Never gonna
Yeah,
happen again. Narrative beaten.
never going to happen again. I mean, Pat Narduzzi kind of did it for himself this game. I mean, going into the game, he said himself, "We only really care about ACC matchups. We can lose this one by 100, and we still have a path to the playoff." Why do you say that?
Because you're just telling your players not to give a shit at that point. Like, that's not a good look, bro. You're giving the ACC a bad look now because they will find a way to. If you're the ACC champion, I guarantee they'll find a way to leave your ass out now. I'm sorry. They're going to find a way to leave your ass out now.
I mean, that was like I had like issues. Like I was obviously worried about the Pitt game going into it. I've been worried about it all season. But once he said that, I'm like, buddy, what? Don't you know the precedent?
Yeah, and I will say on two out of the two games this weekend where there was historical precedent, my precedent senses were not tingling. They were not tingling. My precedence is undefeated right now.
I
We'll see if
mean,
that holds up this week, but I'm just saying.
Carr looked really good this game. I mean, had one really bad pick six. Like it was bad, but that was like pretty much the only type of offense that Pitt was able to uh, kind of muster up until a garbage time touchdown in the final seconds of the game. But uh, Jeremiah Love, I believe, is the best back in the nation right now. Uh, Maybe even better than Ashton Genty was last year, in my opinion. He's looking absolutely electric. Another great game, 147 yards rushing, one touchdown. He's got to be in the Heisman contention, in my opinion. But also, um, this Notre Dame offense looking really really good. Darian Price, he's one of the more slept on running backs at Notre Dame. Like it's usually either Jeremiah Love's going off on a game, but when he's not clicking, Price is usually kind of keeping things steady. Got 21 yards rushing, but he's still very valiant, great contributing to the team. Um, this Notre Dame team's looking good, especially with the next two games being Syracuse and Stanford. Like, should be a good couple games for Notre Dame to round out the rest of their season. This was probably the biggest challenge left on their schedule, so we'll see how that goes. Moving on, we have Alabama, Oklahoma. Gareth, do you have any takeaways from this game?
Yeah, if I Alabama's grown on me as the season's gone on. I will give them that. They have, in my mind, kind of righted
Mm-hmm.
the ship. But this was a loss you just could not have right now. This is a Oklahoma team whose playoff chances were pretty much dead in the water, and they've been given new life now. And I'm
Yes.
not saying they're a bad team. I think they're an absolutely electric team who, after this one, probably deserves to be in. But Alabama, like the questions I had to begin the season have now returned. Like I will say, out the one big question I had to start the season was Tyson. Ty Simpson, you've put any issues I've had to bed, but the thing is, Alabama when it comes to these, I feel in my mind these like nitty gritty, like when it gets down to it, like these like Oklahoma's one of those teams that can win in Georgia Tech fashion and be okay, if you get what I'm saying. With how they run their offense and how good their defense is, they can run in a Georgia Tech fashion. Um, Alabama, your offense has got to be more explosive than that. You're at home. It's senior night, for God's sakes. And you muster, you know, you have 400 total yards on the day. Ty Simpson throws for 300 yards, and the most, you know, you can only muster 21 points off of that. And I get, they had a pick six, just like, they started off with good momentum. I'm not saying Ty Simpson played a stellar game either. I'm not saying he's blameless in this, but this is just kind of like it was a quirky game in my mind. I will say the kind of the vibe I got. Those losses. This happens more in college basketball. Like I love college football. It's probably my favorite sport to watch. But a lot of my things I use like examples and kind of like I don't want to call it syllogisms, but you get what I'm saying. A lot of my comparisons when I try and make a point are from college basketball because like I've grown up and that's what I've been around having family members, obviously, or not family, having family friends that coach basketball. I'm well versed in that. This is like one of those games in college basketball where you lose, but you can't quite tell why. Like obviously there's going to be some stats when you look deeper, but on paper and how the game flow was, you really can't tell why you lost. But 3 turnovers will definitely do that for you. That is something you cannot have at home. You cannot have this happen on senior night. And especially you cannot have this momentum killer going into a night game in Jordan-Hare. There has not been a Iron Bowl night game in Jordan-Hare in almost 20 years. And if you're curious what Alabama's record is in Jordan-Hare night games, it is not great. It is not great. As Saban said, that there's ghosts in that building. That building is haunted. And I think this is where Auburn is. This is going to be Auburn's stand. They're without a coach, and you know how these kind of dead in the water teams who fired their coach have that one kind of final stand this season.
Yes.
Boy, is this final stand going to come at an inopportune time for Alabama. We'll get into that prediction later. But all I'm saying is, Alabama, you have not set yourself up well.
That's still a couple weeks ahead. I mean, we have SEC Cupcake Week this week.
Oh, yes, of course. Feast Week. Or should I say fattening week?
I was technically not Alabama's senior night. I mean, last night game. But they got Eastern Illinois at home, man. You got to look out for that one.
IEU. Although I will say, IEU has more passing yards in the NFL. IEU is accounted for 50,000 passing yards in the NFL. Alabama doesn't even have accounted half that. Now, is 35,000 of that, who played there? It wasn't what's his face? It wasn't Joe Flacco.
Tony
Romo. Tony Romo. It's Tony Romo and Jimmy G make up. Tony Romo makes up 35,000. Jimmy G makes up like 15,000. Now, is it arguably one of the greatest NFL quarterbacks of all time in that mix? Yes. Or at least one of the most tenured and storied ones. Absolutely. But still, hey, I'm here for SEC hate. I'm here for it.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on. We do have another big implication game. Texas versus Georgia. Georgia comes away with the big win, 35-10. Arch Manning played relatively decent in this one for Texas, but this was not a good game by any stretch of the imagination. And Gunnar Stockton, one of the best quarterbacks in the nation right now, he's just one of the guys where if you have him under center, you're in a good spot. I feel like 4 touchdowns, 229 yards passing. The offense for Georgia was just clicking in this one, and it just Texas has not played a complete 4 quarters of football this season. Even in their wins against Vandy, they let up in that 4th quarter. I have not seen a full 60 minutes from this Longhorns team, and I feel like they played themselves out of the playoff. It was a must-win scenario. I don't think you can get in with a loss to Florida first month. I mean, a loss to Georgia and then Ohio State, if those were your only 2 losses, yes, but that loss to Florida is looking pretty bad right now. And Texas was on thin ice, but they fell through. Good win for Georgia. Georgia is definitely one of the top teams in the nation. Probably the most dominant after this week. Just looking, if you're looking at that Texas A&M game and seeing some regression from the Aggies, I would not be surprised if you decided to put Georgia over Texas A&M in the SEC right now.
Yeah, because they have a little bit better resume right now. I'd agree. And when it comes to Texas, and people aren't going to like this because this hasn't been the narrative, but Arch Manning's not the problem. I'm sorry. He hasn't played great. He hasn't played up to the hype, but objectively speaking, he has not been the issue. The amount of drop passes, yes, he had a pick there where he overthrew a guy. Then was like, oh, I'm seeing him overthrow receivers left and right. You saw him do that once, and you saw the commentator mention it. Like, you saw the commentator mention it. I'm sorry. Like, that's all I'm going to give you. But let's be real. I mean, he didn't play great either, but yeah. Texas is out of the playoff. I think they're a good team, but, I think this team's got some growing to do. Same thing with Georgia and Gunnar Stockton. Unlike that, a lot of people had questions around Gunnar Stockton to start the season. I was actually very high on him to start the season. I was very surprised at all. I don't want to call it the hate, but you get what I'm saying. Like, there were people I felt like had a lot of unwarranted question marks. Yes, he was unproven, but from what he showed last year, I was impressed. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if people put Georgia over Texas A&M, but I feel like the Texas A&M would have to have some losses here in order for that to be warranted at this point. So, that's all I've got to say on that.
Yeah. Going back over to the ACC, there's one game I wanted to highlight. What are your opinions on Georgia Tech, Boston College? Georgia Tech gets the win on the road. This Boston College team's bad, but they're weird. Like
they have shown flashes of brilliance. They have a really, really okay. This is gonna sound weird. They have a good defense, and I know you think, well, oh my god, like that's they're 1-10. Think of this like those years in the NFL where Detroit or like Chicago had the best defense, but because their offense was so ass, they couldn't keep up. Like, and yes, Boston College's offense has shown flashes. They have trouble stopping the rush, but I think this is just kind of speaks more onto how Georgia Tech plays. Like, they're that slow option style. Like, it's not always going to run up the score. Mm-hmm. And I will admit, they have some pretty ugly wins. But I will also say Georgia Tech teams of past that have been ranked much higher have also had some pretty ugly wins as well. Like that 2014 Georgia Tech team that almost made the playoff. Pretty filthy team on paper. Fun people to play with on the video game.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I realize like that's just me because I'm probably a little bit of an ACC bias here, but it's not the best look, but SEC teams have done the same thing before, in my mind. Like it's happened before to SEC. But that's what I'll say about that. What about you?
I mean, definitely not the best of looks. Georgia Tech being down to Boston College in the manner that they were. I believe at the worst, it was 28-17. Georgia Tech able to kind of go on a little bit of a run after a 17-point run and kind of get this game a little bit more undermanaged, but with the game-winning field goal with Aiden Burr, Georgia Tech comes away with the win. I'm just worried about this Georgia Tech team, especially against teams like Pitt and Georgia. Like Haynes King can't do it all, and we've seen a little bit more of a solid rushing attack by Hosley, but it can't just be the Haynes King show.
Yeah, it can't. That's some other people have got to step up. Jamal Haynes can't have a game like that again. Like, it's great that Mosley stepped up instead, but you can't have that in my mind. And now, Georgia Tech could surprise us, but if they're going to play these teams with these more explosive offenses, like, I think a good team I think Georgia Tech could take an Alabama in my mind. But that just because Alabama seems to struggle when the pace slows down. But yeah, that's all I'll say. I feel like there's not much to analyze there outside of that. I just feel like Georgia Tech, if they want to ease my worries about them, they need to run Pitt into the ground. Like if they drop 40 on Pitt and win like 40-24 or something like that, okay. I'll be like, I'll feel a little bit better about them just with how explosive Pitt's offense is. Yeah, I want to see more from this Georgia Tech defense as well. And I've seen some people bring that up, but I feel like that's been an aspect that's kind of been slept on. I mean, particularly when this unit plays some zone coverage, like that zone coverage is pretty porous. I mean, like when Aiden and I were talking about that NC State game, like CJ Bailey just had his absolute way with their with their zone coverage. It was like, some of it was busted coverage. Some of it was like, say, this is not an example. Like this is not like a legitimate example. I mean, this is just me thinking of like a scenario where it would be like, so there are certain route combinations that are just good against some coverages. This would be an example of like when they say busted coverage, like a lot of people think busted coverage is the DB just messed up. No, busted coverage is, the defense runs some sort of one high shell, like a cover one or a cover three, and the offense runs like a verticals play, which attacks the weaknesses in a cover three. Yeah. Or like the defense runs man coverage, but then the offense runs a bunch of man beating routes. That would be busted coverage.
Yes.
So it could have just been there's a lot of busted coverage. I think the defense as a whole, defensive coordinator included, Georgia Tech needs to step it up on the defensive end. Their offense for me is fine. It's their defense. That's the real big issue in my mind.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, I'll address these two teams together because they one win looks better than the other, but Michigan and USC. So yes. First Iowa and USC. Iowa, really good team. I just think victim of their schedule, unfortunately. USC, this is a good win on paper for them, but for me, I'm not convinced. They haven't won, and I will say this Iowa game is a big game, but to me, they haven't won many big games. I'd be okay. Oh, wait, they did beat number 15 Michigan. I'll give them that. But I don't know. I'm not usually the vibes guy here, or unless it's like there's precedent. But I don't know. I just don't get good vibes from this USC team. They just don't really do it for me. They've been kind of unconvincing. Outside of the Michigan game, they've been pretty unconvincing in my mind. Close losses, close wins. I don't know. This could just be how Lincoln Riley's chosen to play ball as of late. But for me, it's just, I don't know. This team doesn't do it for me. And hey, I realize for some people that's not a good enough reason, but hey, for me, sometimes Aiden and I go off vibes, and I'm just not getting good vibes from this USC team. So, same thing with Michigan. I just don't know if this Michigan team's done enough for me. Like, and I realize, that's why the season hasn't ended today. And, it's a road conference matchup, and you just kind of take those how they go. Underwood still continues to develop, looking great. Obviously, Michigan rushing attack is going to be dominant regardless. But this Michigan team, I think their tell-all is going to be this Ohio State game.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any ranked wins. They have a ranked loss. For them, I'm sorry, this Ohio State game is do or die for them. They have Ohio State at home. Like, it's there for them. It's there for the taking. Are they going to go 5 in a row against Ohio State? I don't know.
But it's
there for the taking.
The same could be said for USC because they have a matchup with Oregon on the horizon.
True. So, I forgot about that.
So I kind of view these two teams kind of similarly. I like this Iowa win for USC a lot more just because able to contain a rush-heavy offense, which I felt like that's what I was highlighting before. That's one of the big downfalls of USC, just unable to contain the rush. It led up at sometimes, but that second half, complete shutout, and USC able to come from behind and just dominate that second half, which that's why I'm a little bit more high on USC than you. I think there's a lot more to this game than meets the eye. Michigan, it was an ugly win against Northwestern. I'm not going to lie. I mean, some ugly picks. I'm still very high on Bryce Underwood. I don't think he's going to be beating Ohio State this year, but then again, it's a rivalry. We don't know. Um, but Michigan able to get the job done in Wrigley Field in an
I forgot
interesting
about that.
in an interesting matchup to say the least. Um, let's bring it over to the Big 12 just for a moment. Texas Tech gets the big win over UCF. Texas Tech's offense just continues to absolutely dominate. 48 points to UCF only putting up 9. BYU wins against TCU 44-13, and Utah gets the big win against Baylor 55-28. All three of these teams look really great. Obviously, I'm most high on Texas Tech, but it just sucks knowing that I don't think all three can make it into the playoff this year.
Yeah.
Maybe we need more Big 12 bias. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'll admit I've been wrong about the Big 12 this year. You and I were both very down on them in our predictions this summer in video that got corrupted.
Good.
Yeah, like
They'll
we were
never
both
see the
very
light
down
of day. Good.
Good, good.
Good. But let's see. Any other matchups that really stick out to us?
Not particularly for me. I'm just going down doing one quick like little once over again. Um, no ranked matchups I miss. Nothing. Nothing. Um, yeah, I'm good to move on if you are.
All right. Yeah. Moving on to week 12, 13. 13.
Yep, week 13. Yeah, the SEC schedules a bunch of joke games week. Yay.
Well, starting off in North Carolina, we have UNC versus Duke. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie, boys. It's not looking good for UNC right now. But it's senior day. Anything can happen. I mean, I like this Duke offense, but UVA showed that they have some weak points. I like UNC's defense. Um, the keys to success for this one, it just UNC needs to pick it up on the offensive side of production. Gio Lopez has been doing all right and it's just kind of maintaining, but he's not been playing up to his NIL pay grade, if that makes sense. The rushing attack from UNC started off pretty good at the beginning of the season, in my opinion. Like that was actually one of the highlights.
It was the strong points. Yeah,
It was a
it
strong
looked pretty
point in
weak.
that TCU game that I choose to forget, but it's just as the season progressed, we kind of seen a little bit of switch from an okay run game and a bad pass offense to an okay pass offense to a bad run game. So UNC needs to figure that out for this game. Should be raining, so probably you're going to need to be running the ball a little bit more. Maybe that kind of slows Duke down a little bit. The there is a path to victory. I'm just going to say I'm not high on UNC. I think Duke's going to win this one, but I don't know. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Duke in this one as well. I think they're going to have a get right game here. And not like a get right game in terms of like a beatdown. I just mean I think they're going to get right just because their last two games have been yeesh. Like that UConn game.
I don't know. I mean, if the Duke that showed up for the past 2 weeks shows up this week,
Bad
there's
thing.
bad, UNC has a plan. Like, UNC could win. They could. But do I think it's going to happen? No.
No.
But moving over, we got a Friday night matchup. Florida State versus NC State and Carter Finley. Gareth, I know your precedent meter might be going off the charts on this one, but I'm going to say it. I don't think NC State's going to pull this one off against Florida State, respectfully. I mean, but you never know. I'll let you take the reign. I think you can make a very good case for State winning, though.
Yeah, for me, the hard thing about this game has been the up and down nature of both of these teams. Like,
Mm,
and I will say more so for Florida State. Like, Florida State, I feel like level of ass has been worse at times just because with the amount of shit talking Thomas Castellanos did in the offseason saying he ran through the ACC. Nobody. The ACC ran through you. And not in like a, oh, it runs through me, big dog. No, it ran through you. It ran through you. Um, but for me, I just think NC State's defense is terrible. One of the worst secondaries in the nation. But you know whose secondary is worse? Florida State's. Florida State is one of the few Power 5 secondaries ranked worse than NC State's. So I don't want to say expect a shootout because if I say that, we're going to get a game that's like 9-7. That's just what's going to happen. But for me, I think keys to success here for NC State's the run game. We got to get that going. Got to get that going. Keep Florida State's offense off the field. We've just got to play disciplined defense, which we haven't played a lot of this season, in order to keep Thomas Castellanos in check. But who knows? This Florida State team likes to shoot itself in the foot quite a bit. Quite a bit. But like Aiden said, we've seen stranger things happen. But I don't know. I think on the road, Florida State on the road this season hasn't been particularly spectacular. They haven't been spectacular at home either, speaking of it, but it's a Carter-friendly night game. This state team seems to really get up for these late night games, particularly Friday, Saturday. So I'm going to give this one to State. If they can get the run game going and if CJ Bailey can, not play like you want to transfer this game. Play like you want to transfer this game. That's all I'm saying. You can save your I don't want to transfer performance for the bowl game. You can save that for the bowl game. He usually has 2 good games and then a bad game. So he's due for 2 good games. You can throw 4 picks against App in the bowl game. You can throw 4 picks against App in the bowl game to stay. That's all I'll say.
But Gareth, I wanted to see peak. I wanted to see 2 5-6 teams duke it out in the night game at Carter Finley.
Oh, Aiden, all I'm saying is if we beat Florida State, I think that even gives you guys more of a chance because Dave Doran doesn't have a bowl game to play for.
Yeah. It's crazy that that's going to be a night game.
If you think about it, Aiden, do those games not always deliver in terms of like drama or like last minute action?
Yeah, but like I probably would have saved it for Miami and Pitt.
The 2 ACC teams who can't fill their home stadium. Aiden, our fans show up at whether they're 12-0 or 0-12 for this game, Aiden. These 2 teams could be 1-11, and then that son of a bitch would be sold out.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Aiden, unless they have like 1 loss or more, the month of October is not very kind. The months of October and November are usually not very kind to Pitt in Miami. These former Big East teams, November's not kind to them because they're used to being in that basketball conference where college basketball starts to heat up in November and their fans stop showing up and start showing up for the teams that actually matter for those schools. Sorry, shots fired at Big East football, but like it's just the truth.
Rest in peace, Big East football.
The only month, I mean, even Louisville in the ACC, even Louisville too. Historically speaking, in the ACC, November's not been kind to Louisville. That's where all their bad losses come. Maybe it is these former Big East teams. I'm clipping this. Maybe these former Big East team struggles in the ACC are just because they're so used to gearing up for basketball season. Now, this take's going to look horrible considering the state of the Big East right now in basketball. But historically speaking, would they or would they not be gearing up for basketball? The only team I'd say this doesn't apply to is Notre Dame. But I'll grant them that their little, independent, spell or concoction brewing over in the cauldron in the corner. I'll consider that, their little, protection charm that they've cast. They were kind of... I'm not going to make that Bugs Bunny joke. All right, I'm just playing. But you get what I'm saying? Back it's getting cut. Relax. But no, like I was saying, I think a lot of these former Big East teams struggle in November because they were former basketball schools. Back to my point, Aiden. The reason NC State UNC gets a night game is because those fans always show up. Like I said, it could be 1-11, and that would be sold out. Pitt, Miami, nah, they have one loss or more. They ain't showing up in October or November. Louisville, it happens to them. Think of that Lamar Jackson Louisville. They were 8-0. They went 0-4 in the months of October and November that year. All these former Big East teams fall apart in the months of October and November because of basketball. Like I said before, Notre Dame gets that weird protection spell. That's what I'll give them. They get that one weird protection spell. But yeah, that's my one clip for the video that, former Big East teams are too busy gearing up for them. It's like those circadian rhythms. Like for me, I got up at 4:00 in the morning to swim 3 days a week. And for the longest time, my body would still wake me up at 4:00 in the morning on the dot. It's muscle memory is what it is. It's muscle memory,
Indeed.
It's muscle memory.
Yeah.
So make sure I clip that and clip the bad part out. Moving on.
Moving on to games that matter. Wake Forest versus Delaware. I mean,
I don't know, man. This game's looking at me kind of funny. Give me Delaware.
There's no spread
Give
on
me
this game. We can impact the spread on this one. Give me Wake Forest on this one. I mean, I like Delaware. They've been playing up to competition, but really bad loss to Sam Houston. Gareth, Sam Houston's a bad team. But
Aiden, Winston-Salem's a weird place.
It is. It is. I mean, it made you, so it can't be too normal. I'm sorry.
It's not good. I love it. I love it. I know it's a weird place.
I know it's a weird place. Gareth was made there. But I don't know. I mean, the Wake Forest offense has really picked it up a little bit, and the Delaware defense is one of their weaker points from what I've seen. Really kind of screwed it up against Liberty. Letting too many points slide against the Sam Houston team that is not an offensive power. I think Wake Forest's offense is going to overwhelm Delaware, and I think Wake Forest takes this one.
Moving on to a playoff implication level game. Louisville and SMU.
Hang on, let's keep it. Let's keep it in North Carolina. Like we got.
Let's keep it in North Carolina. Yeah,
keep it in North Carolina. We got App State, Marshall. App State needs to win out to get a bowl. I don't think that's going to happen. Give me Marshall.
I've got Marshall as well.
Yeah, Marshall in this one. I mean, hey, Kid Brewer Stadium, those fans do show out sometimes. But Marshall had a little bit of a slide against Coastal and JMU. Got on the get-right path with Georgia State. I kind of like this Marshall team. They have a pretty solid offensive production, and I like their quarterback, Carlos Del Rio Wilson. He's been pretty good this season with 17 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. I don't think he's going to be making critical mistakes in this game. And I think AJ Swan is a little bit more prone to those big mistakes at times. Del Rio Wilson is a dual threat guy. He's going to be testing this App State defense a little bit too much. I like him to lead the Thundering Herd in this win against App State. App State's going to be knocked out of bowl game contention. Let's see, any other? There's ECU, UT San Antonio. That's going to be an interesting one in the Alamo Dome. I still like ECU's offense a lot. I think this is going to be a pretty big shootout. UTSA does have an offense that can kind of show out in games. Had a little bit of slow start against Charlotte, but I see them picking it up in this one. Give me ECU, and let's see, where's Charlotte?
They're playing Georgia. Loss.
Damn. You know it's bad when you're on the cupcake week and you're an FBS team.
Yeah, that means they like their chances against you better than an FCS team.
Holy crap. They didn't even schedule you week 1. They didn't even throw you that pity. Oh, we're playing a group of 5 team week 1, and we play our FCS team in the second to last regular season week of the year. That's bad.
That's very bad.
That's bad. That's very, very bad. Anyway, yeah. Give me Georgia. Anyway, back to playoff implications. You were saying SMU and Louisville?
Yeah, these teams are both out of it, but I feel like just I feel like it would this game formally closes the loop for the losing team in my mind. Like the loop is like formally closed, like a third conference loss, you're done. Like 2 conference losses, maybe, in like a nightmare scenario, but at this point, you get what I'm saying. Like this formally closes a loop for one of the 2 teams. Give me Louisville.
Yeah, give me the
Nope.
Louisville in this one. I like SMU, but I think Louisville just has a little bit more oomph behind their resume. I like Louisville's win over Miami a little bit more than SMU's win. Louisville has been on a little bit of a slide with that California Clemson stuff going on, so I think
That Clemson game was stupid.
yeah, but I think Louisville can kind of get back on the right path. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm taking your clip. These Big East teams fall off in November. We got a bad loss to Clemson, bad loss to Cal. I see this trend continuing. Give me SMU in this one.
Indubitably. Moving on to other games. Let me take a look at nothing interesting in the SEC, of course, because
Yeah.
that's
We
crazy that
got
Georgia doesn't have another
USC. We
SEC.
got USC versus Oregon.
USC, Oregon. Give me Oregon. This USC team, I'm not particularly impressed with. I think this Oregon team, they've gotten right, and I think I'm just worried about USC's ability to keep up. I know I was high on USC's offense to start the season, but I think it's just going to be a little bit too tall of a task for Mavia, and they've been a little too inconsistent for my liking to be able to keep up with Oregon. So give me Oregon to win this one.
Something about this game is kind of looking at me a little bit funny. I feel like Oregon's kind of been a little bit coasting a little bit too much. I know they got a big win over Minnesota. Offensive looked good, but I don't know, against teams like Iowa, Wisconsin, like they've had a little bit of struggle. And if they come out flat on this one, which I think sometimes they're prone to do offensively, I think USC can catch them slipping. I'm picking USC to win this one in an upset. I want to see some chaos.
Another interesting game that could, playoff implications for one team. We've got Missouri and Oklahoma. Missouri. Now I'm giving this one firmly to Oklahoma because Missouri's without Bo Pribula, froze ankles, froze knees, done for. But this is still a ranked matchup, and I think Mizzou's still a solid team without him. I don't think they can win without him, but they will still put up a fight. Like they're still no slouch. Like I still think they could beat the average team, but I think it's a ranked matchup on the road. I'm giving this one to Oklahoma.
I got to agree with you on that one. I like this Oklahoma team a lot. I don't think Mizzou is going to be able to really kind of come back from their injuries on this one, especially against this pretty good Oklahoma team. Give me Oklahoma in this one. Another ACC matchup with pretty big playoff implications, allegedly. Pitt versus Georgia Tech. Are you listening to Pat Narduzzi when he's saying that he's taking the ACC teams a little bit more seriously than Notre Dame, or do you think this is kind of a little bit of a cover up for some flaws on this Pitt team?
I think that was him trying to have his little media clip. Let the media people stick to the clips. Yeah, let us media people stick to the clips. Give me Georgia Tech here.
Yeah, give me Georgia Tech as
Let
well.
Jedi business. Go back to your drinks, Pat. Leave it to us.
Yeah,
Jedi business.
I'm expecting a big one, a big performance from Haynes King. I think the Georgia Tech offense this Pitt defense did not impress me against Notre Dame. Now, granted, this is amazing Notre Dame offense, and is not like Georgia Tech's offense is not on the same level as Notre Dame, in my opinion, just from the dual nature of Notre Dame's offense. But give me Georgia Tech in this one. Another big, not really big in playoff implications, but I'm not sleeping on this matchup. Nebraska versus Penn State. Penn State's fighting for a bowl game in this one. It's at home in Beaver Stadium. Does Penn State pull off the upset? Well, it's not even an upset. Penn State's favored by 8 points in this one.
Well, yeah, I think Dylan Raiola, I believe, is out for the season. So I'm that's kind of been like the catalyst for that Nebraska offense. So I'm giving this one to Penn State. They still got some stuff to fight for, and I think they still have some oomph despite missing Drew Aller. So give me Penn State.
Yeah, give me Penn State as well. Any other matchups that you see? I mean, Tennessee, Florida should be, like, technically on paper is one of those matchups that should be big, but is not.
It isn't.
Yeah, give me Tennessee.
Kentucky Vanderbilt could be an interesting one, considering how Kentucky's played the last few weeks, and you never know. This Vanderbilt team could slip. I'm still giving this one firmly to Vanderbilt, but I will say that Vanderbilt home atmosphere outside of a few games has not been too impressive, and this Kentucky team's pulled off stranger things.
Yeah,
So.
give me Vanderbilt though. I like them in this matchup. I mean, I like Kentucky. I mean, they could pull off some sneaky stuff, but I'm standing firm with Vanderbilt on this one.
I am as well.
Notre Dame plays Syracuse. Give me Notre Dame. And I think that's pretty much all the of note match. Actually, there is one that I kind of want to highlight. Friday night, we got a 10:30 matchup, Hawaii versus UNLV. UNLV's favored on this one. I got Hawaii beating them. UNLV just has not impressed me really that much at all. I mean, I don't know what people are. I mean, they kind of got right after New Mexico, but losses to Boise State and New Mexico kind of looked bad, and they just started off this season pretty slow. I think Hawaii can catch them slipping on this one.
I agree. This UNLV offense hasn't been as explosive as we've been told. Just with they've got Dan Mullen, they've got the go-go offense. It has not been as explosive as it should be. So I'm giving this one to Hawaii. Hawaii's been improving. They've been hitting it in stride. They've been looking really good. So give me Hawaii. I'll agree. Give me Hawaii here. That being said, should we move on to the NFL?
Yeah, let's do it.
So on to the NFL.
Oops, Panthers get a big win. Panthers get a big win over the Falcons. Bryce Young looked pretty good in this game. Actually looked like a really competent quarterback. Now, granted, it was against the Falcons defense, which has been kind of suspect at times, but 448 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. I'm not going to let the stats kind of dictate like, oh, Bryce Young's back on this one because I still saw some kind of questionable mistakes by this Carolina offense. And this win was a come from behind win by nature.
Yeah.
Rico Dowdle didn't have the best game rushing, but had one really pivotal catch that put the Panthers in prime scoring position. Tremble came away with a really clutch catch in overtime that put them in position to get the game-winning field goal. The Panthers look good. Falcons are pretty much out of the playoffs right now. I feel like this game kind of seals it. Panthers have swept the Falcons for the first time since I believe 2014, 2013. It was like they didn't even sweep the Falcons in 2015, and I was surprised by that stat line. But good win for the Panthers. I just have more questions than answers, but I do want to give a shout out to Tatiora McMillan, our first round draft pick, had one hell of a game, 2 touchdowns on this one. He's shaping up to be a pretty solid receiver for the Panthers. 130 yards receiving. This was one of his biggest games. He had another game earlier this season with, I believe he also had 2 touchdowns. So I believe he has 4 touchdowns on this season. But he's developing nicely. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I agree, and I will say he's who we said it on with a pick. So I'm not going to complain. I will say he's pleasantly surprised me. I'm not saying like, were there better options that could have better helped the team? Probably, but I will say he has definitely done his part, and he's slowly improving and becoming a very explosive facet to this offense. So I think he's a great addition. So I really like that. I think this is a good win over the Falcons. That Saints loss stings a little bit in terms of the playoffs, but hey, we're in the hunt right now. We're right in the mix for a wild card spot. And hey, we're 1 game off of Tampa Bay. That's all I'm saying. Winning the division is not out of the question.
Mm-hmm.
It's not out of the question yet. So, moving on to some other interesting games from this weekend in terms of the NFL. Let me pull this up. Go back a week. One game that stood out to me, obviously the big one that stood out to me is going to be Bucks Bills. This was a game of the week for me. This was a back and forth game. I mean, Josh Allen, 6 total touchdowns, 3 rushing, 3 passing, 2 interceptions. Just kind of basically every stat imaginable under the sun he had. But great game for both of them. But I think it's one of those unfortunate games where one of those teams had to lose. I think these are both very, very good playoff teams. So, yeah. Good game. I think both teams will be fine. We'll definitely make the playoffs. So, and I think the Bills are back to their winning ways. So, anything to add?
Yeah, nothing to add on this one. Good game by Josh Allen. And Bills are rolling. Bucks have kind of gone through a little bit of a rough patch, but especially coming up this week with LA Rams, but we'll jump into that later. But I think they'll eventually start getting back on the right path, but Bucks haven't played the Panthers yet, so NFC South is still pretty much up for grabs.
One shocking game for me would be Jaguars Chargers. That one was I think it was just a bad game for everyone all around on the Chargers. It was just uncharacteristically bad game. It's just the Chargers couldn't get the run game going. I mean, Justin Herbert was their leading rusher, for God's sake. Not that he can't get up and move and have some wheels, but like that's not a good look, and it's just you just can't play like that. I mean, by no means did the Jaguars, offensively speaking, have a good game in terms of statistics, but 35 points is 35 points. That's an absolute ass whooping. So,
yeah.
Shout out to Jacoby Myers in his first game with the Jaguars, leading the way with 5 receptions on 64 yards. Played Great wide receiver for NC State. Great NFL wide receiver. Speaking of ACC players, Vishal Tootin of Virginia Tech had himself a game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. 74 yards rushing on 15 carries and a touchdown. That's a good one. ACC people showing out. So, always for the ACC narrative here.
Love to see it. Love to see it. One weird matchup that I want to bring up is the Rams versus Seahawks. Sam Darnold just didn't really look too good on this one. Had a pretty proficient like yardage wise, like 279 yards, but 4 picks at pretty bad times. You're not going to win with that type of decision making at the helm. Matthew Stafford, I'm going to say, didn't look too great either, but was able to get 2 touchdowns and the rushing attack from Kyrene Williams. Shout out the Notre Dame legend, able to get 1 touchdown with 91 yards rushing total. Just all around, like it felt like a very sloppy game from both sides. But the Rams seem a little like one of the most solid teams in the NFL right now, and I have them at definitely like my top 1 or 2 teams in the league right now. They just are super good, really good defensive production, but also just able to win offensively without having to ask too much out of Matthew Stafford, which I feel like is a good thing to have, especially with him at his age right now. This LA Rams team's looking pretty good. I feel like they're in a prime position to make a run in the playoffs and maybe come out with the NFC West just division in a very weird division in general, with the Seahawks looking up until this point as good as they did, and the 49ers kind of being just one of those teams that refuses to die.
Yeah. And they're one of the most consistent. The Seahawks are one of the most consistent teams in the NFL. Or it's not Seahawks. Lions or
Rams.
Stafford. Rams. One of the most consistent teams in the NFL in my mind. So hats off them to be sneaky Super Bowl contender. Speaking of this was a week of just weird fucking games in my mind. This was just between Chiefs, Broncos, Lions, Eagles. Is there one you want to get into first? Because this week was just weird.
Let's talk about Chiefs Broncos first, and then we can go into the Sunday night game. Chiefs Broncos. Gareth texted me this while I was in church, and I wasn't watching the game live, but once I saw Gareth's text, he can't keep getting away with this. I knew what happened. Bo Nix. I mean, listen. I mean, he made less mistakes than he's usually prone to do. And the Broncos come away with the win 22-19. Garrett, do you want to jump into this a little bit?
The reason I said what I said is it's just like it's another the Broncos are a good team, and I'll give them credit. They are finding ways to win, but it's not like they're winning just close games. They're winning in unsustainable ways. This game, obviously, it's a back and forth game. I'm not going to knock them too much. That was more of a joke when I said what I said. But I'm talking about the games like the Eagles game a few weeks ago, where they're starting out incredibly slow. And I realize that this Chiefs team's a little down on their luck this year. Don't get me wrong. They're not a great team either, but they're still a good team, I feel like. Like they're still probably making a playoff team, but it's just frustrating watching the Broncos win in it's exciting and it's frustrating watching the Broncos win in this tight fashion every week. Now, I'm a little sick of watching them win on the leg of a kicker, but I'm no Will Lutz hater, so I'm not. That's as far as I'll go. I will say, as far as kickers go, Will Lutz is one of my favorite in the league, so I'll give him a pass. It's Will Lutz, so I like reliable kickers. They're fun.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that one.
Yeah. Moving on, we have Eagles, Lions. Eagles come away with the win, 16-9.
Ugly.
I'm not gonna lie, this game was kind of boring.
And it wasn't even like good defense. It was offensive miscues. There's a difference. I know a lot of people are like, you know how people will joke towards people who like winter, and they're like, ah, yes, 3 p.m. and it's just a picture of a black screen.
Yes.
There's a common misconception with the NFL where it's like, so it'll be a game that's like 3-0. Ah, yes, average defensive fans. There's a difference between good defense and offensive miscues. This game was just offensive miscues, in my mind, by both Goff and Hurts and just everyone in general. Now, I will say, I don't want to hear any more whining about the tush push. The Lions had that shit on lock. Multiple times. So, but I mean, I think the Lions will get back to their winning ways. They're not as good as last year. I mean, obviously they're missing their absolute genius of an offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who's now the head coach of the Bears. But go figure, they're playing well. Their offense is humming. But yeah, I think the Lions are still going to make the playoffs. Still think they're a good team. Unfortunately, they're kind of sitting around that same record mark as the Panthers. They've got one game on the Panthers, which that definitely does not help us out. But, you know, hats off to the Eagles. Similar to the Broncos, they just keep finding ways to win. And it's very similar to last year. And just after after those two kind of embarrassing losses, they've kind of righted the ship. And I can't fault them for that. So good on the Eagles. Is there any other games from this week? Because this week just honestly made me want to jump out a window.
I mean, Bears get the win over the Vikings. I kind of saw that one coming. Nothing really to write home about that one. Packers get back on their winning ways against the Giants that have been beaten up. Jameis Winston makes his first start this year.
Gets benched.
Yeah.
Actually, I think he might be hurt. No, or is he the starter? I think he's still the starter. Sorry,
he was the starter, and he is the starter for right now. And Steelers get the big win over the Bengals.
Yeah,
9-8, 10-7 Super Bowl incoming, and Brock Purdy has a really good game against the Cardinals. Coming back into form, 3 touchdowns, 200 yards, but Jacoby Brissett balled out in some ways, 454 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. But that's not enough to carry the Cardinals over.
This is what I remember what I wanted to bring up. So we have some record-breaking weeks in the NFL. We forgot to mention Bryce Young set a franchise record with 450 passing yards. And then Jacoby Brissett set an NFL record for the most pass completions ever at 47. So, weird week, but also record-breaking week.
Yeah.
So, shout out to them. Capping off, what was kind of honestly a weird week in a negative connotation with some positivity. We'll finish off with some positivity there before we get into our predictions.
Going into week 12, Panthers are going to be playing Monday night against the 49ers. Finally, a prime time game for the Panthers. It's been a while.
Fuck it. Give me the Panthers.
I mean, I might just have to go with you on this one. I mean, it's such an occasion. When's the last time the Panthers played in prime time?
At least 2 years.
Yeah, I know Thursday night, but that was back.
We did have a Thursday night game.
That was when Thursday night was a little bit more booty than it is now. I mean, granted.
Was that my senior year of college where I think they had a night game within the last 2 years because it was the last Thursday. It was a Falcons game.
Yeah, it was 9-6, and Panthers won. It was rain. It was bad.
Was that when we debuted our black helmets?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think that was 2 years ago. That's a little over 2 years ago. So yeah, back in the prime time. You know what? These 49ers have been the most unconvincing 7-4 team. Give me the Panthers.
I mean, what Bryce are we going to see with this? I mean, Bryce had one
I'll,
good, gets one. Uh, I mean, you know the theme. Sometimes he has one good game, he doesn't know how to act after that, and by that I mean doesn't
I
act
mean, the
good.
49ers are missing a whole lot of people on defense, so that's what's giving me hope. But what's also giving me hope is Rico. I think the 49ers are going to catch a Rico case.
They might catch a Rico case. You know, I'm feeling hopeful for the Panthers. You know what? I'm going to hop on your bandwagon. I got the Panthers winning this one as well. Um, let's see. We got a Thursday night matchup: Bills and Texans. I got the Bills winning this
Bills.
one. Yeah. Uh,
Not much else.
the Texans are just a little bit too much a question mark for me right now. Um, Steelers Bears, that should be a good matchup.
I'm taking the Bears here. I love that Ben Johnson style of offense. Caleb Williams coming into his own with DeAndre Swift. This Bears team's just covered with weapons on the offensive end, and they're not too shabby of a defense too. This Bears team's for real. Give me the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears have been, Steelers have been up and down, but the Chicago's kind of been keeping it a little bit more consistent. It's at home. I like Williams in this one. I'm excited to see the matchup between Aaron Rodgers and Caleb Williams. Aaron Rodgers is questionable this game, so I think I'm going to have to go with the Bears on this one. So yeah, let's
Um,
see.
some
Colts
good,
Chiefs.
lots of. Oh,
Kansas City's favored in this one. It's in Arrowhead, but I don't know. I'm liking the Colts.
keep talking. I'm gonna you talk a little bit about this game. I'm gonna need a prop for my hot take for this one.
Okay. I mean, the offensive production from the Colts has just been a lot more dominant, in my opinion. Daniel Jones has been really good, but really benefiting a lot from Jonathan Taylor being able to carry this offensive rushing attack. Patrick Mahomes still having a really good caliber year with 2,600 yards passing. He's kind of tied up with Daniel Jones in both of their production right now, but just the rushing attack from the Colts that's really kind of taken the edge and load off of Daniel Jones that I feel like is going to help the Colts in this one. I don't think the Chiefs defense is going to be able to match up with the Colts, and with the Colts having like the addition of Sauce Gardner right now, um, I'm excited to see how their defense is going to pair up against Kansas City.
Without, oh God, sorry, I was looking at the scores and one of the ads popped up. That was really loud. That was unintentional. Sorry about that. But speaking of the game and the Chiefs defense, I'm just gonna say it for the Colts. I think it's gonna be absolutely belt to ass. That's all I'm saying. I don't think with how this Kansas City offense has been playing, I don't think they're gonna be able to keep up. Not that the Colts are this up tempo team, but I just think how good the Colts' offense is. I just don't think Kansas City will be able to keep up. Their offense has just been kind of misfiring. It's like in World War II when their machine guns would jam. Kansas City's a good team. Their guns just jammed right now. But to me, I don't think they're getting it unjammed this week. So give me the Colts. What a big belt to ass.
Moving
We have
on,
the
We have Packers Vikings. I got the Packers winning that. Um,
we have the game of the teams that I'm kind of frustrated with right now. Cowboys. The no.
Cowboys.
I don't. I'm taking the Cowboys in this one.
I don't know how I feel about the Cowboys playing against really good teams. Um, they've been kind of a little bit hit or miss Give me the Eagles on this one. I feel like they're eventually going to start getting their offensive production back on the right track. I think the real problem with the Eagles has been rush blocking. Haven't been giving enough space to Saquon Barkley. Shout out to YouTuber Barry, actually his name on YouTube. Check him out. He's really good. He does a lot of good deep dives into the Eagles. And he points out that Eagles offense is pretty good right now, but the problem is just the blocking scheme. If they're able to figure that out against the Cowboys team, they weren't able to figure it out against Rico. So I feel like the Eagles can kind of get their scheme right on this one and beat the Cowboys.
Yep, I agree. We've also got some absolute just stinkers this week. We've got the Toilet Bowl, we got Browns Raiders, and we also got Falcons Saints. Just two games no one wants to watch. I'm gonna
Show
go
me
with the
that
Falcons
Shador.
in
Show
that
me
one.
that Shador on that one. Give me the Browns against the Raiders.
I'm taking the Raiders. Sorry. And then the only other really good matchup of the week, we got Bucks Rams. Two kind of, really solid teams, but give me the Rams in this one. I think the Buccaneers just have a really tough schedule right now, and the
Yeah,
Panthers can help. So give me the Rams.
yeah. I got the Rams in this one as well. I got the home field advantage. I don't know how LA is a little bit weird, but I like the offensive attack of LA right now. The Bucks offense has had way too many injuries right now. They cannot keep up with the Rams.
I think that'll do it for our NFL coverages. Do you want to talk about any MMA? Because I have some soccer news that I think will be interesting. But
Well, we had a really big card with UFC 322. This was a great card. So I'll just jump into it. Good prelims fights as well. Bo Nickel gets the KO over Rodolfo Vieira, a KO by kick. I did not expect that coming from Bo Nickel. He is a Penn State wrestler. He is like, I did not expect him to have knockout power behind his striking game. He's starting to kind of come into his own as a fighter. I'm really liking his performance in this fight. Gets a really good KO in the third round, so shout out to him. Benoit Saint Denis gets a good knockout against Benelli Dariush. Victory knockout in the first round. Man, that was absolute domination by Benoit Saint Denis. Like, man, it was one punch and that's it. Like it was just 16 seconds, done. And uh, Benoit Saint Denis is going to be moving up in the lightweight. Can't wait to see how that goes, especially in the lightweight that's very loaded right now. In the welterweight, Carlos Partez gets the win over Leon Edwards in a knockout in the second round. We got a lot of knockouts in this one. Um, so bad loss for Leon Edwards. I like him a lot, but I think his title contention days might be behind him right now. Michael Morales gets the knockout over Sean Brady in the first round. Michael Morales remains undefeated in MMA. Really excited to see where he goes in the welterweight. He's looking really good. Um, and some people are next two fights both went to decision. Handedly, though, Valentina Shevchenko sweeps Zhang Wang Li in a unanimous decision. Judges score all 5 rounds for Valentina Shevchenko. Absolute domination, able to control a lot from the ground, having 13 minutes of control on the ground, securing 5 out of 6 takedowns, but also still having a pretty decent striking game. She gets this one handedly. I really like Valentina Shevchenko in the women's flyweight. A lot of people were not as high on her But I think this is a really good title run right now, especially with a great talent like Zhang Li. Um, just very good for Valentina Shevchenko. And then Islam Makhachev takes the title or for the welterweight, beats Jack Della, JDM. Uh, Islam Makhachev able to control for like 19 minutes on the ground. This was an absolute grappling match, and Islam was just able to hold on and just dominate on the ground, securing all four of his takedown attempts. Also having 140 total strikes against JDM, landing 30 significant strikes. This was just an absolute dominant win by um, Islam. Judges score all 5 rounds for Islam Makhachev. Um, Very interesting where he's going to be going with this. I was thinking he was going to go back down to lightweight, but we don't know. This is a good win. I don't know if you can technically consider him a double champ since he did vacate the lightweight championship, but two-time UFC champion with a good win in the welterweight. He can do whatever he wants right now. In my opinion, I think he's almost secured GOAT status right now. He's looking really good. He's on top of the world. I'm excited to see where he goes in 2026. We have one more pay-per-view card in December in Vegas, UFC 323, and then after that, we are going into the Paramount era. So I'm really excited for that. But that's going to sum up my UFC recap. Really big week in Madison Square Garden. Really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. In big news, in soccer news, at least for the U.S., I left you guys at. I was not very it was not a very hopeful note. Um, I was still in on the U.S. men's national team coach, and I thought he just needed time, but unfortunately, time is not what we have. By some miracle, the U.S. and granted they are exhibition matches, but there's not a whole lot of meaningful soccer you can play getting ready for a World Cup after all your competitions are behind you. But through some, I don't know what child sacrifice the U.S. did, but this is the longest unbeaten run the U.S. has gone against top 40 world opponents. So obviously, the big one I wanted to talk about today was U.S.'s absolute just thrashing of Uruguay the other night. So Uruguay is historically a very good nation at soccer. They are one of the few teams to ever win a World Cup. And this is the largest margin of victory the U.S. has had over a former World Cup win. The U.S. won 5-1 over Uruguay. And the big storyline here is Uruguay is coached by one of the all-time greats. He's coached in Europe. He's coached everywhere. He's coached in South America. His name is Marcelo Bielsa. He's one of the tactical geniuses. Earlier this year, he was quoted saying, Major League Soccer is one of the worst leagues in the world and it makes players lazy. So Mauricio Pochettino, the U.S.'s head coach, also is coached in the Premier League and is also known for being one of the pettiest coaches out there. So what does he do? He puts forth a lineup of all MLS players and proceeds to whoop that ass. How about that for the narrative? Not even 2 months ago, you say, yeah, MLS is known for lazy players, and they absolutely beat your fucking ass. God damn. If this is the US's B team right now, I'm feeling good going into this World Cup. I'm feeling a lot better. Like I said, I've been saying, I had been kind of worried, but I will say, Mauricio Pochettino was going to be a good coach. He just needed time, and time he got. So, yeah, I think this is a good win for the U.S. The U.S. Is now on a 4-game win streak, 5 games unbeaten against top 40 world opponents. The U.S. is now up to 14th in the world rankings. I'm feeling good going into the World Cup. Our final game before the World Cup, I'm not sure I'm feeling confident in, but it's against Germany. I wouldn't feel really confident against any team going against Germany right now with how Germany's playing. But when it comes to narratives, like we'll talk broader about the World Cup after this one point. But in the U.S.'s last 5 matches, they've played Japan, Ecuador, Australia, Paraguay, and Uruguay. 4 out of the 5 of those are in the top 40 in the world. The U.S. beat Japan 2-0, tied Ecuador 1-1. They beat Australia 2-1. They beat Paraguay 2-1, and now they've beaten Uruguay 5-1. Yeah, good stretch of run for the U.S. Goals by Alex Freeman, Sebastian Berhalter, Diego Luna, Folarin Balogun, and Tanner Tessman. Gio Reyna, who's finally found his way back into the squad, getting an assist. But now we're talking about, let's go into some more drama and just general World Cup qualifying. So World Cup qualification, we've got some feel-good stories. The smallest nation to ever qualify for a World Cup has qualified in Curacao. Curacao is a very interesting nation in this regard. Because their nation is so small, they are similar to Suriname. They rely on a large diaspora to fill out their team. For those of you that doesn't know what that means, they rely on a lot of immigrants who moved elsewhere, but because they have birthright, they have blood citizenship through a parent, they're allowed to play. So they have a lot of Dutch diaspora that play for them. Good story for them. Another team that has qualified for the World Cup for the first time is Cape Verde. The Cape Verde in Africa. Another really small nation qualified for a World Cup. Hats off to them. But that's not who I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to talk to you about the Euro qualifiers, because there is some interesting storylines that could be had. So obviously I'm a US fan when it comes to the World Cup to the World Cup, but there's some teams I'm impartial to. If Germany's on, I'll root for them. I wouldn't say I'm a Germany fan, but teams I root for when they're on, at least when it comes for, teams that of like family heritage, that would be Wales and Ireland. Ireland have a chance to qualify for their first World Cup since 1994 through the playoff method after following their wins over Portugal and Hungary. And in the Portugal game where Cristiano Ronaldo got sent off with a red card for violent conduct. That's not interesting at all. But the funny thing is, this will be the fourth straight World Cup in which Italy may miss. If Italy does not come out on top in the playoff, they could be on their way out. But the most interesting thing that could happen with the World Cup qualifying involves some politics, geopolitics, if you will. So with how this World Cup playoff works, teams are put into 4 pots for UEFA, which is Europe. 1 and 4 play each other, and 2 and 3 play each other. Pot 2 contains Ireland, World Cup hopeful. Pot 3 contains a familiar, hated opponent for Ireland. Pot 3 contains Northern Ireland. The draw for this is coming soon. Ireland could draw Northern Ireland, and the winner will go to the World Cup and the loser will not qualify. This has happened before. Yes. Gareth, when there's historical precedence. This happened in the 94 World Cup, in which all Ireland needed to do was tie Northern Ireland because of they did the playoff a little differently back then. But in this playoff, we could end up with a scenario where it's winner go home for Ireland against Northern Ireland. Now, there's some other games that take place. I think Ireland would have to lose a few games because of how they finished in qualifying. And Northern Ireland would have to win a few games because Northern Ireland did not do so well in qualifying. Northern Ireland's usually not very good. But Ireland could be seeing their first World Cup since 1994. So, interesting ones all around. Not going to get into the Asian qualifying because there's some politics on there which could get our channel nailed when it comes to it. Well, I'll just let you know it involves a nation that rhymes with Frankenstein, with who they'll be playing. Aiden and I will discuss off air. But I think that'll do it this week for us on Tobacco Road and Brow. We had a lot for you. We'll start breaking down some college basketball because next week, which I think this would be a good idea. Would you like to preview the Feast Week games with me next year, like going into the Thanksgiving tournaments? We've got the Players Era tournament. We've got the Maui Invitational. We've got a whole just slate of games. We've got all these Thanksgiving tournaments, all these feel-good things, loads of good games. It's ramping up. We've got ranked matchups. We've got, I'm sure UNC's got some ranked matchups. We've got Kansas coming to the Lenovo Center. We've got NC State playing Ole Miss in the Greensboro Coliseum. We've got some good ones coming up. But I think that'll do it for us here tonight. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys next week for what's probably going to be a really long but loaded episode.
Indeed.